Imagine a world where entire concepts, entire ways of thinking and perceiving reality simply vanish, not just from memory, but from the very fabric of communication. What if I told you that governments, institutions, and even some unseen forces might be actively working to erase certain words, certain ideas from our collective vocabulary? This isn't about natural linguistic evolution. This is about deliberate, calculated obsolescence, a quiet war waged on the very tools we use to understand ourselves and our universe. What if they've already succeeded, and we're too busy speaking a diminished language to even notice what we've lost? To understand this disturbing possibility, we need to go back to a foundational text of dystopian literature, George Orwell's 1984. In this chilling portrayal of a totalitarian future, the party's most insidious weapon isn't brute force, but newspeak. Newspeak wasn't just a simplified language, it was a scientifically constructed tool designed to narrow the range of thought. Its entire purpose was to make all heretical ideas, all thoughts deviating from party orthodoxy, literally unthinkable. If you lacked the words to express rebellion, how could you even conceive of it? The process was relentless. Eliminate synonyms, remove antonyms, strip away all shades of meaning until only good and ungood remained. Concepts like freedom or justice became obsolete, not because they were banned, but because the words themselves ceased to exist in any meaningful context. This wasn't just censorship, it was a preemptive lobotomy of the collective mind, rendered through linguistic engineering. The party understood a fundamental truth: control language, and you control thought. This fictional nightmare, however, serves as a stark, unsettling mirror to processes that have been playing out in the real world for centuries, often with far less overt violence but equally devastating effects. The obsolescence of language in our reality may not be a sudden, dramatic event, but a slow, creeping erosion, a kind of cultural amnesia where entire ways of perceiving the world are allowed to wither and die, often for reasons far more mundane yet no less sinister than totalitarian control. What if the very words we speak are being curated, not just to simplify, but to limit? But this isn't just about a fictional dystopia. Look at history, and you'll find countless examples of language being targeted as a means of control. Colonial powers, for instance, systematically suppressed indigenous languages. Why? Because a language is more than just words. It's a repository of culture, history, a unique way of categorizing and understanding the world. Erase the language, and you sever a people from their past, from their identity, making them more pliable, more easily assimilated. Thousands of languages have gone extinct, not always through direct prohibition, but often through deliberate neglect, through creating social and economic systems where they simply couldn't thrive. Think about the myriad terms for snow in Inuit languages, or for shades of green in certain African tongues. When those words vanish, do the subtle distinctions they represent also vanish from our perception? More subtly, consider how political discourse has been manipulated in modern times. Terms like fake news or alternative facts aren't just dismissive, they're designed to devalue and disarm genuine inquiry. The overuse of vague corporate jargon creates a linguistic fog, where accountability disperses into acronyms and euphemisms. We talk about downsizing instead of firing people, collateral damage instead of dead civilians. These aren't just stylistic choices, they're deliberate obfuscations, designed to soften harsh realities and dilute moral responsibility. The standardization of language through media and education, while seemingly benign, can also work to homogenize thought. When everyone uses the same limited set of phrases, expressing truly novel or dissenting ideas becomes increasingly difficult. The unique quirks, the regional idioms, the philosophical nuances that once enriched our understanding of complex issues are slowly being streamlined, flattened into a bland, universally acceptable lowest common denominator. This isn't about progress, it's about control, a quiet conditioning that narrows the imaginative and critical capacities of an entire population without them ever realizing what's being done. The subtle disappearance of words defining complex emotions or nuanced social structures can have profound effects. We become less capable of expressing and therefore less capable of truly feeling or understanding the full spectrum of human experience. This is not some grand conspiracy with men in dark suits dictating vocabulary through smoke-filled rooms, but rather a more insidious, almost organic process driven by media, technology, and a pervasive societal drift towards simplification. Now let's consider the chilling implications of an increasingly homogenized, diminished language. As our vocabulary shrinks, our capacity for complex thought diminishes in parallel. If we lack the specific words to describe subtle differences, to articulate nuanced emotions, or to conceptualize abstract philosophical ideas, then those differences, emotions, and ideas literally begin to fade from our mental landscape. It's not just about not being able to say it, it's about not being able to fully think it. Imagine a future where the word dissent itself, or the words necessary to construct a coherent argument against the prevailing narrative, are simply too clunky, too archaic, too readily dismissed as negative. What happens to democracy when its citizens can no longer articulate their grievances with precision and depth? What happens to innovation when the language needed to describe truly novel concepts is absent? This mental impoverishment isn't just theoretical, it's a tangible risk. Think about how much of our intellectual heritage is embedded in literature, philosophy, and poetry that relies on a rich, expansive vocabulary. If we can no longer access those meanings, if the words themselves become arcane relics, then entire libraries of human wisdom become inaccessible, not because they are forbidden, but because they are unintelligible. The digital age, ironically, could be accelerating this process. Character limits, clickbait headlines, and the constant demand for instant gratification favor brevity and simplicity over depth. We are training ourselves and our children to communicate in sound bites, gradually eroding our patience for and our capability of engaging with complex linguistic structures. This makes us easier to manipulate, easier to control. A population that speaks a limited language is a population with limited thoughts, limited desires, and ultimately limited resistance. The boundaries of our world and our understanding of it are increasingly being drawn by the available words. And if they are controlling those words, then they are controlling us, not with chains, but with a linguistic prison of our own making. It's a silent coup, a gradual intellectual strangulation that leaves us intellectually poorer, less capable of critical thought, and far more susceptible to whatever narratives are presented to us because we lack the linguistic tools to deconstruct them, to question them, or to formulate alternatives. To this day, we may never fully grasp the extent of what has been lost or what continues to be eroded from our collective vocabulary. The obsolescence of language isn't just about old words fading away, it's about the potential silencing of entire ways of seeing, feeling, and understanding the universe. It forces us to ask, are we truly speaking for ourselves? Or are our thoughts being shaped by a language that has been subtly, insidiously curated for us? If the tools of our thought are being diminished, are we not also being diminished? The next time you encounter a word that feels archaic or a concept that seems difficult to articulate, pause. Ask yourself why. Is it simply natural evolution, or is there a quiet, almost imperceptible force at play, gently nudging our language, and by extension our minds, towards a more confined space? The truth might be more disturbing than any fiction. We could be living in a world where the words needed to escape the prison are the very ones that have been made obsolete.